Okay. Okay, we'll get started in just a moment. I think we may have a smaller crew than usual because my understanding is that some major sections of Scranton have no internet um, because of some accident. Um, and Comcast said it would be fixed by 1:30, which means it might be fixed by tomorrow. Okay. Well, let's just give folks 1 or 2 minutes more and we'll get started. In any case. Esther, we can't see you or hear you, even though I don't think you're on mute. Which may be an internet issue as well.
It's not letting me in.
You're in.
It's not on in my house.
Oh.
It's just twirling and it's not showing anything.
Yeah, it may be the same thing of the Scranton outage.
Oh, I know. I had like 4 people in my classes today. Everybody was out. I wonder if I should go back out and come in again.
We can see you and hear you, Deb. So
no, but I can't see anything except a big square in my face, and I can't see anybody else.
Try turning your phone this way and just see if it corrects itself.
No. Come back in.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I know Esther's doing the same thing. Cats don't need internet. Okay, here's Esther again. Oops, I think.
That's better.
Okay, now we can see Esther and.
Yeah, because I'm on my iPad.
Yeah.
Weird.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's just going to be screwy, the internet. So.
Okay, so I got in that time.
Good. Okay. Now, there are worse things in the world than not being able to sign on to Zoom. Yes.
Good thing the Edelmans are here.
Yes. Yeah, no. Otherwise we would be sadly missing. Well,
Rabbi, I can't hear you.
Okay, let me first of all talk louder.
Okay.
And see if it helps. The simplest non-technical solution. And there's 9 of us at least, and I still have the little Torah at home, just in case. So with that, we count as 10 anyway. So we'll do full service. So let me share the screen and we'll do our Temple Hesed song. Hesed, Mishpat, Shira Lecha Adonai, Azamera. Hesed, Mishpat, Shira Lecha Adonai, Azamera. Of love and justice I will sing. To you, Adonai, I'll sing praises. Of love and justice I will sing. To you, Adonai, I'll sing praises. So, share screen is not working properly. So let me just stop it and start it again. Sorry. Okay, there we go. So I wanted to do a different sort of song for our opening song. This is by a woman by the name of Ruth Pelham, who was actually on the Reform Movement's call today when they were talking about everything that's been happening this week and how to deal with it, and different verses of it were sung as a way of kind of going in between each of the different parts of the service that people had, and I'll share some of those with you. But let me pull up because it seemed to have gotten closed. Okay. Melody of this. Yes. Not opening. Sorry. I think you'll pick up the melody pretty quickly. And in each verse, just one word changes from turning to loving to healing. Ruth was still is a singer activist, and has sung with Pete Seeger and lots of folkies along the way, and ran a music mobile in Albany for many years as a way of bringing music to inner cities.
Let us sing this song for the turning of the world, that we may turn as one. With every voice and every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our turning. With every voice and every song, we will move this world along. With every voice and every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our turning. Let us sing this song for the loving of the world, that we may love as one. With every voice and every song, this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our loving. With every voice and every song, we will move this world along. With every voice and every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our loving. Let us sing this song for the healing of the world, that we may heal as one. With every voice and every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our healing. With every voice and every song, we will move this world along. With every voice and every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our healing. And our lives will feel the echo of our healing.
It's really a lovely song that I have heard many times at different conferences and things like that. I didn't know until today the story of the person who wrote it. But Ruth Pelham, it's worth checking out some of her songs. A number of them are in a big folky book, Rise Up and Sing, and worth learning. Esther thought that it would be nice to have a different reading, particularly one that brought some comfort in these times. So, Esther?
Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will we ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will we ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let us keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let us be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat abide. And now Shabbat has come. Can it help us withdraw for a while from the flight of time? Can it contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of frantic life? When all days abandon us, Shabbat abide. Let us learn to pause, if only for this day. Let us find peace on this day. Let us enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat abide. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Debbie, would you read from Psalm 95? You're muted.
Sorry. I thought you unmuted me. Sorry.
Okay.
Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai. Raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence and praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is a great God, the great ruler of all divine beings.
Yeah, when this all started, you could unmute somebody if you were the host. Then at some point, apparently, some privacy group got to Zoom and said that was an invasion of privacy. That to have the host be able to control whether somebody was on mute or not. It's okay to mute them, but you can't forcibly unmute. So that has led to "you're on mute" being one of the most used phrases of 2020, and will continue into 2021. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing to God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along, all the earth, a new song unto God. And we'll sing the song of welcoming Shabbat. I played this a couple of weeks ago. It's a medley. We'll have 3 different tunes that will sort of weave into each other as we go along with Lecha Dodi.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekapela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekapela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad hishmianu el hameyechad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet belit v'ila. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekapela. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekapela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshvat techila. Lai lai ay la la lai ay la la lai ay la la lai ay la la lecha dodi. Lai lai ay la la lai ay la la lai ay la la lai ay la la likrat kala. Lai lai ay la la lai ay la la lai ay la la lai ay la la b'nei Shabbat. Lai lai ay la la lai ay la la lai ay la la lai ay la la nekapela. Hitorari, Giva orech, Kumi ori, Uri uri, Shir daberi, Kevod Adonai, Alayich nigla. Lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai lai la la lai lai la la lecha dodi. Lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai lai la la lai lai la la likrat kala. Lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai lai la la lai lai la la b'nei Shabbat. Lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai lai la la lai lai la la nekapela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha uv'tzola, toch emuneh am segula. Boi chala, boi chala. Lai lai lai, ya la 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 lecha dodi. La 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 likrat kala. La 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekapela. La 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 lecha dodi. La 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 likrat
turn to the Hetzi Kaddish. It separates this welcoming of Shabbat from the main part of the service. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah v'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayedachol Beit Yisrael Bagala bagala Ubizman kari vimeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach. Olam ol me'al maya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitomam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata damiran bialma vimeru. Amen. We turn now to the Baruch Hu. We gather our attention together. We don't necessarily need to physically stand, but just to be as present as we can as we welcome this opportunity to pray together.
La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Baruch Hu.
And Bonnie, would you read from the Ma'ariv Aravim prayer?
Unmute. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, creator of day and night. You roll light away from darkness and darkness from light. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamarim v'aravim.
In love, you offered your people Israel your Torah and mitzvot. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And then we sing together a prayer that is even more of a prayer this week. Often it's a statement. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. This week we remind ourselves of that oneness when it is so hard to see sometimes in the world around us.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בהם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך. וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, הייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Moses, Miriam, and Israel responded with song to you. It happens in just a couple weeks in the Torah portion, all of them proclaiming.
כמוך באלים אדוני. מי כמוך, מי כמוך, מי כמוך, נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. Who is like thee? Who is like thee? God among the mighty. Who is like thee? Mi chamocha, mi chamocha, mi chamocha, mi chamocha, ba'elim Adonai, ba'elim Adonai, ba'elim Adonai.
I don't know about you, but I always feel after that particular melody, like I'm just ready to cross the sea. It's like I can charge ahead, even if it's not all the way. Like Nachshon ben Aminadab, who had to go in till his lips were covered before the sea parted. just it's like ready to charge ahead. Malchutecha ra'u v'anecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam ze li anu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Spread over us, God, your shelter of peace over your people Israel and over Jerusalem. And now let's sing. This will happen in about, we'll read this in about 5 weeks, 6 weeks, where the Israelites free in the desert get to move from freedom from to freedom to, not just not following Pharaoh, but being able to observe their own covenant. And the first covenant they take on is the covenant of Shabbat. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti leolam, oti leolam, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam berit olam. And on the seventh day, they rested and had life re-breathed into them. So now we turn to the tefillah section, and as we usually do on these Zoom services, we'll sing the opening kavanah together, each in our own place, and then have a moment for silent prayer and reflection. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. We pray silently.
Shalom. ירומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Okay. So I mentioned before that there was a gathering online for the reform movement earlier today, and it had a number of different reform leaders, most of whom I knew, not all of them, including the new nifty youth social action chair. And it was a interesting and comforting half hour. Rabbi Rick Jacobs, the president of the URJ, started talking, opened his part of the talk this way. He said, there was a ruler who was a mixture of narcissistic and paranoid. Paranoid, he saw enemies all around him that other people didn't see. Narcissistic in that he thought he was the most important thing, not only in the country, but in the world. Those who didn't agree with him found themselves on the outside very quickly and in dire straits. And he kept getting worse and worse till one day he decided to take action by separating the children of immigrants from their parents. And at that point, people thought it was as worse as it could be. And then he paused and he looked at us and he said, I'm talking about Pharaoh, you know, of course. There are certain echoes in this week's Torah portion to events of the present, as is so often the case. But it's important when we think of the Exodus story to remember that this is a story that's supposed to instruct us. It's not a story that is meant to just take place a long time ago, or a story for us to feel grievance about. We were treated badly, so everybody needs to be nice to us. But rather to remember that treatment, that kind of a leader, in order to be ready to oppose that kind of treatment of others, not only of ourselves, and to be ready to speak up. After all, Moses spoke up when his own standing was not at risk, and put himself at risk in order to speak out, and spoke out in criticism equally of Pharaoh and his power, and of his own people when they were abusing power. But I wanted to look a little bit more closely at one section that I never really thought about in the call of Moses, the burning bush. I focused a couple times on the idea of noticing the burning bush. You know, how long you have to look at something to notice that it's not burning up, and that it was in some ways it's an interesting test of Moses's patience. But I want to take a look at that section and focus on the last line before the conversation really gets in depth. So let me pull that up on the screen, and maybe Harry and Mary Beth, if you wouldn't mind reading it. It's a fairly short section. Okay.
Now Moses, tending the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, drove the flock into the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. An angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire out of a bush. He gazed, and there was a bush all aflame, yet the bush was not consumed. Moses said, I must turn aside to look at this marvelous sight. Why doesn't the bush burn up?
When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to look, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. He answered, Here I am. And he said, Do not come closer. Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you stand is holy ground.
Okay, so let me point out a couple of things here. First of all, there's this interesting transition. When the bush burns at first, who, according to the text, is making the bush burn? Esther?
The angel of the Lord.
Right, so it's not God yet. It's this messenger of God. When does God appear? What does Moses do that makes God directly appear?
He turns aside.
He turns aside. When Moses changes what he's doing and is paying attention, that's the moment when it's, the angel is done with the angel's job, and all of a sudden now it's God there. And Moses clearly was turning aside without seeing something that was divine. He was seeing something that was unusual. But now all of a sudden there's this speaking. And then God offers this odd instruction, which I have never paid that much attention to before. God said, do not come closer. Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you stand is holy ground. Now, let's think for a moment. Stop the share so we can look at each other. So why do that? What's going on? Obviously Moses is paying attention. There's no one else there. Why not come closer? Why take the shoes off? Text doesn't say, other than it says it's holy ground. But presumably it was holy ground before he took his sandals off. Why all of a sudden now, if he's talking to God, he has to take his sandals off? Can't come any closer. What's going to happen to him?
Well, you may not want to come closer to not burn up. I mean, if the bush is still burning.
Okay, so one thing is that fire is destructive. Even if it's important and creative, it's also destructive, and you don't play around with destructive things. So that, I think that's one part of it. Yeah. Anything else?
He wanted to make a special moment, like not ordinary.
Okay, so we don't, if you think about it, in cultures where you remove your shoes, it's because you are separating yourself from how you were into a different kind of moment. When you enter into a house in Japan, you take the outside shoes off, and now you're in a different place. When you take your shoes off before entering a mosque, the idea is that you've been in one kind of mindset and now you're in another. So God is asking Moses to be different. I think that's part of it too, and that this is a different moment. And Moses does it, so there's that's also in its own test. Is Moses ready to make it a special moment?
Rabbi, and I don't know whether it was in chanting or in service where you talked about the path and that God likes us to take a new path. Well, if you think of shoes as treading a place, you would be treading a different path if you removed your shoes and paused.
Oh, I like that. That's great. Yeah. So there's that element of, okay, this is something different, right? You don't usually go through the Judean desert or the Sinai desert without your shoes on. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to necessarily even be safe. But here you are embarking on something new. Anything else? So I was thinking, okay, so there's this contrast throughout the whole first Exodus story between Pharaoh and Moses. And even throughout the rest of the Torah, Moses gets depicted again and again as this humble person, which is the opposite of Pharaoh, who is thinking he's literally God. So I can imagine the do not come closer also as another test. Like, do you know limits? Are you going to be able to be a leader who says, you don't have to be at the center of things? I'm asking you to make my voice more important than you, and for you to respect that and to stay back and not to try to get in the center. I'm sure I'm influenced by what's going on now and noticing that when I hadn't before. But I wonder if it's yet another test for Moses that indeed he has to show some humility before he can before God will even talk to him. He has to show that he's willing to respect boundaries and to not place himself in the center. And it's an interesting way to go about it, because again, what's God going to do? Like, he's sought out Moses. He's deliberately appearing to Moses. Moses notices him. He's turning aside. He's paying attention. Then God's going to zap Moses and say, no, you came too close. But it's clear that the relationship changes the moment that Moses actually listens to this, takes his shoes off, and doesn't approach closer. That's when God is ready to outline the plan. So something to think about in an age where it's all about getting closer and figuring out what boundaries we can cross. That there are certain experiences that you can only have if you're willing to stay back, to take your shoes off, to experiencing something new, but also to limit yourself, to be listening to the importance of that place and how it's different from other experiences. I wanted to show you as well a reading not designed by the Reform Movement, but this was a coalition of different faith leaders: Abu Patel, Jean-Pierre Ruiz, Andrea Weiss, who's one of the provosts of Hebrew Union College. So there's Greek Orthodox, there's Catholic, there's Muslim, all who compose this prayer together. It's a prayer for the country. And I wondered, Donna, once I pull it up on the screen, if you would read it, given how many times you've read the prayer for the country at other services. So.
Every inch of America is sacred from sea to shining sea. There is much to be done in our time, the sort of hard work on which God smiles because it is done for the sake of the dignity and the well-being of all God's creatures. Together, let us work to preserve and make manifest the values upon which our democracy was founded. The task of all people of faith is to call governing authorities to fulfill God's purpose of bringing about justice, mercy, and peace. Individually and as a nation, may we heed our obligations to each other as we navigate the tensions of building a just society. Rather than the politics of divisiveness, may we move our country towards a politics of empathy. May we use our power well so we do great things for all God's creatures, all those made in God's image who yearn for an equal place at America's table. If we do all this, may grace and peace be ours in abundance. May we be a beacon and a blessing to the world.
Thank you. And I wanted to read, I did send it out in today's email, but it was fairly late. Hopefully this will appear in the paper. I got a very despairing call from Reverend Rebecca Barnes, who's been in our synagogue a number of times, the chief clergy person of St. Luke's and the president of the Scranton area ministerium, just sort of saying, what is it that we can say as a ministerium? And so I put on a few of the chants that we're going to lead tomorrow, and thought about it and wrote this, and then sent it to the ministerium. And unlike any other thing I've ever sent to the ministerium, that got edited by committee and then had to go through 3 or 4 drafts. They basically all said, "Yeah, send it in." So this is what I wrote and what the ministerium took as a statement. The events of January 6th will no doubt be endlessly rehashed. People will argue about who's most to blame and what should have been done differently, and those are important discussions. But we believe that a more important discussion is, where do we go from here? Not in terms of reevaluating security protocols or tracking down those who committed violence and destroyed property, but in the larger sense of how can our society function after witnessing such an event? Is there any way to step back from the death spiral of democracy that Senator Mitch McConnell warned of? Is there, despite deep divisions and growing enmity, any way forward for our nation that can bring us back together to work for a more perfect union? We believe there is. We are not so naive as to believe that it will be easy or that all we have to do is gather together while observing social distancing protocols, of course, and sing a round or two of Kumbaya. Nonetheless, we believe deeply in the power of love and light, the call for humility, and the need for grace. As Senator-elect Reverend Warnock said after the violence on the 6th, in this moment of unrest, violence, and anger, we must remember the words of Dr. King. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Let each of us try to be a light to see our country out of this dark moment. At this time of hatred and darkness, we are a society desperately in need of such love and light. Love not only for those close to us who look like us or think like us. What we particularly need right now is the ability to love those we do not agree with, those on a different part of the political spectrum or with different shades of skin. How can we do that? The philosopher and scholar Martin Buber wrote of one way to enter into such love. He looked at the biblical passage about loving our neighbors, focusing on the Hebrew word kamocha, usually translated as to mean as yourself. But Buber wrote, it can also mean like you. Love your neighbor because despite all the differences, in God's eyes, you are also deeply alike. When we can make that leap into understanding the alikeness beneath the differences, we can learn to love all, not just some, of our neighbors. But healing our society will require more than an empathetic leap. We also need a large dose of humility, which seems rarer than ever nowadays. Humility teaches us that no matter how right we think we are, no matter how sure we are that those people are the ones who are wrong, we are all imperfect human beings. And so it may well be that we are the ones who are wrong. Broken open by humility, we can learn to listen instead of argue, talk instead of shout. Only then can we understand the pain in each other's hearts, and only when we understand that pain can we truly connect. Even with empathy and humility, however, our efforts at loving will be doomed to failure without a good measure of grace. And I wanted to say Hesed, but I figured that wouldn't work as well for the rest of the group. Grace is a complex theological concept, but it is an immensely practical human one as well. Grace is the ability to accept that we all fail, and recognizing that human frailty, to give each other second chances, to allow each other the benefit of the doubt. If we enter conversations ready to be offended, surely we will hear good reasons to find offense. But if we extend grace, sometimes we can realize that something that was said awkwardly, even hurtfully, was not done with the intention of hurt. Giving people another chance, being gentle with each other, we might be able to offer a redo and figure out our way past hurt. No marriage, no deep friendship can survive without at least the occasional measure of grace. And the giving of grace is one of the most amazing of gifts, for in the end, it brings as much blessing to the one who gives it as it does to the one who receives. Admittedly, this is not a practical political program. It will not convince those who are solely bent at winning, no matter the cost. Nor will every hate-filled heart melt open when met with love. But we have seen yet again what happens when there is no love shown at all. Windows are broken, lives are shattered, and ultimately societies can be destroyed. If we are to have any chance of bringing our nation closer to that goal of a more perfect union, we will need to start with love. If we do, light will follow. And it was signed by Rebecca Barnes, Melinda Crocus, Father James Reddington, myself, Vera Wallin, Baha'i and Dr. Phil Yevik's Greek Orthodox.
Wow. Beautiful.
Thank you.
I hope they print it.
I hope they do. I hope they do. Let's see. So let's turn now to the Misha Berach. We remember these members of Temple Hesed families in need of prayer and healing. Michael Cornfield, Mark Davis, Lynn Fragan, Larry Golden, Maggie LaRusso, Rich Mates, Chelsea Minkoff, Jane Oppenheim, Charlene Ostro, Emily Trunzo, Joel Venner. If you have names you'd like to add to that list, just speak them now.
Jack McNamara, Lorraine Fine,
Let's turn to the Misha Berach.
מי שברך אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. מי שברך אמותינו מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say and let us say
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נותן שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אינו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד. ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד. ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד.
Before we turn to Kaddish, just a couple of quick announcements. Make sure if you're interested in participating in this year's community Tu B'Shvat Seder to RSVP to the temple so we can make sure that there are enough kits for everybody, and let us know if you'll be able to pick them up during the time frame that they've established or if we need to make other arrangements. And we'll send out the link again next week for Monday's Martin Luther, not this Monday, but a week from Monday's Martin Luther King program. I think that's all the announcements I've got, unless anybody has anything else. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We have a long list this week because of not having services for the past couple of weeks. We think especially of the Shloshim, of Charlotte Milliken, and our hearts and prayers are with Larry and his family. And we remember these yard sites: Isidore Edelman, Olga Edelman, Jenny Backley, Frida Ball, George Bauer, Edward Berger, Faye Bernstein, Grace E. Davis, Meyer Davis, Mabel Druck, Jesse Samter Ellenbogen, Samuel Feldman, Minnie Ginsburg, Morris Goldsmith, Carol S. Goodman, Israel Greenberger, Minnie Harris, Henrietta Jacobs, George Joel, Bessie Kaplan, Louis Kleeman, Jerry Klein, Bernice Lencher, Isidore Levine, Chester Levy, Ruth Livingston, Jessica Parker Manoff, Tilly Lauer Marks, Ralph Meyer, Goldie Newman, Rebecca Newman, Janet Phillips, David Rosenberg, Bernard Reimland, Herman Schneider, Carolina Schwartz, Harvey Sanford Siegel, Blanche Silverstein, Herbert Smith, Margaret Smith, Dorothy Tapper, Martin Wellheimer, Gus Weinberger, Judith Pell Weinberger, Elliot Weisberger, Bernard Wormser, Frederick L. Wormser, Alvin Ziegler, Gertrude Ziegler, Isaac Ziegler, David Zukowski. Zichronam Levracha. May their memory and the memory of all those we have loved and lost, now and forever, be a blessing. In their memory, we recite Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayeh d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemei d'Kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu bi'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu bi'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, Uyase Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Stay safe out there. I should unmute yourself so we can all say goodbye to each other.
Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful week.
Shabbat Shalom.
Next week, be a good week.
Yeah.
May it be less interesting than this week. Darlene says blessings to everybody. I looked up, that old thing that I've often been told was a Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. And it turns out it's not a Chinese curse. That some Brit made it up. But there is a Chinese verse that says it's better to be a dog in times of war than a dog in times of peace than a human in times of war. Which is an interesting way to think about it. So may we all live in times of peace and not have to worry about being dogs. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Hugs to everybody.
Goodbye.
See you tomorrow.